Making molds, they can use as stamps for footprints out of blue stuff. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and I've got a little tutorial today about blue stuff again. So I've done a couple of tutorials on blue stuff, but I'm going to show you how to use blue stuff to make a stamp. So we're going to do footprints. So if you do armor type models where you want footprints across the top, or any other model where you want some footprints around, and rather than having them, well, actually you could also use them for imprinting into a groundwork, but I'll show you how you use it on paint, and I'll see if I've got time, I'll show you how to use it on some mud type material as well. Okay, so there's our trusty blue stuff. Now you see here I've got blue stuff in the blocks as you buy them, and then this is a block which I've used before, so I've just torn that and such. Got a little container here which I'm going to be putting in some boiling water, and I've got a couple of feet here which I'm going to replicate so that we can make our little stamps. Okay, so let's get some boiling water first, and we'll pour it in here. So I've used quite a big container because that helps the hot water maintain its high temperature for longer. You could use a cup, I guess, but they're quite small and they cool down pretty quick. Okay. All right, so I've got my hot water here. I've got my things that I'm going to replicate into stamps. So first thing I have to do is we're going to use the blue stuff to create the, I guess you'll call it the negative. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put blue stuff within the blue stuff and make a mold of this so that it's going to be flexible. Now at the moment, these two items, so I've got a 35th scale foot here. That's got some boot detail in the bottom. And then we've got a bare foot here, which is in 1/8 scale. And they're rigid. So if you try to do stamps with those, they're not going to be very convincing. All right, so let's get, we don't need a lot because we're just doing the bases. So I'll pop that in the hot water. And I'll pop this one in there as well. Doesn't matter if they sit in there for a while, it just means they're just going to be soft. All right, so I just got them swimming. You can see that how it's already become malleable, and I can stretch it out. And then it's started to go hard now. Okay, so we'll keep that in there. So you don't have a lot of time to work with it. You can actually put this onto the surface you want. Now let's just shape it in the basic shape we want. I'm going to make a little block of it. Like that. Put it back in there to soften up. Now I'll pull it out and we'll press our foot into there. Oh, that's broken off. Don't need that bit anyway. Alright, so what you can do here is if you want super sharp details on the bottom and you want to make sure that that blue stuff goes into every little nook and cranny, well, while your part is in there, as long as it's plastic and it doesn't melt from the hot water, we'll put the whole lot back in the hot water there. Okay, so the blue stuff itself is going to soften up. And then as we pull it out, we'll be actually able to squeeze this tighter around this part. Like so. All right, so we're going to leave it there to cool down. But while we do that, let's prepare this other bit that we're going to be using for creating our barefoot mold. Okay, so I'm just getting that in the rough shape of the foot. All right, so that needs to be a bit flatter out, like that. Okay, pop it back in the hot water to soften up again. Doesn't take a lot of time, and then let's just press it in. Okay, just like that. So we'll let those cool down. This one's probably already cooled down enough, I think. So move it around. Yep. So all we're going to do is, let's just pop that out. Just going to squeeze a little bit, and then it'll pop out straight like that. All right, so if I look carefully now, I don't know if you'll be able to see there. Let's see if I can get the reflections. You can see all that sole details just coming through. All right, so we're going to use that as a mold to create our stamp. Leave that there. All right, so I'm going to pop this in the hot water now to soften up, and I'm going to be pressing that into here. Now, we still need to prepare this so that the blue stuff that we push into there doesn't get stuck, because what's going to happen is it's going to try to what's the word? I guess it's fuse itself together, because the heat from the hot blue stuff is going to reheat the edges here, and it's going to want to stick together. So to stop that, we're going to need a lubricant, and the simplest lubricant is like this: a bit of Vaseline or petroleum jelly. Now I've also used a lip gloss before, which is absolutely fine. You don't need very much. So all we're going to do is take this off. You notice that in the lid there, I've got little bits and pieces of it, which I'm just going to brush off. Okay, we'll get a little brush like this. And we don't need a lot. It's the tiniest amount. Okay, it's almost like dry brushing. Let's see if I can show you there. So it's just getting a little bit. And we're just going to brush it on the inside here. Now ideally this would be better if this was all dry. I don't think I've got, actually I've got a tissue here. Let's see if we can dry it out a bit. Because otherwise the water is just going to interfere with where the Vaseline is going to go. Okay, so that's pretty dry now. Let's just wipe off this surface a bit. All right, there's our mold. I've got the Vaseline on here, and we'll just brush it on the inside. Now try to get it in all the really tight nooks and crannies. Okay, all above, across the sides as well. And I'm going to put a coat across the top, just in case there's a bit of overflow when we squeeze the blue stuff on. We don't want it actually locking onto the blue stuff mold. Now petroleum jelly is pretty easy to clean off with hot water, so don't think it's going to ruin this piece of blue stuff. You're just going to wash it off with the boiling water, and then you'll be able to use this again and again. Okay, so that's already prepared for creating the foot mold. Now I've got my blue stuff here. I don't need a lot of it. Let's tear that, leave the others in there. So I'm just going to shape this into a bit of a sausage so that I can hold it like a tool for doing my stamping. Now we want the end to be big enough to be the size of the foot. Pop that back into the hot water to soften up just before we press it into here. Let's just make sure that's clean. All right, so that's pretty soft. All right, let's push this in now. We'll let it cool down and see what happens. All right, so let's prepare this one too. Put that one over there. Here's a big one. Peel that off. So the shape of the foot in there. All right, same thing again. I'm gonna just sort of dry this off. And we're gonna lubricate this with the Vaseline. Like so. Got a Vaseline here. Just gonna paint it all over the place. Just make sure it's a nice light coating. You don't want it too heavy because otherwise it's going to, I guess, damage the details, because it's just going to fill in all the segments and such. That should do it. Okay, let's have a quick look at this one. We'll just peel this off. So you see how it's peeled off cleanly, and we've got the shape of the boot in here. Now what we're going to have is all this excess around the sides. Now I'm going to use a knife and chop that off. But we'll just leave it there for the moment, and let's prepare this bigger one. All right, let's get our hot blue stuff out. Use that about the same size as the foot. All right, I'm going to press it in. All right, like so. Let's let that cool down. All right, I'm going to get a knife and let's trim down this stamp. All right, so I only want to keep the boot area, so I'm going to trim off all this excess around the edge here. All right, so I've just got a sharp knife. Now the excess that you cut off, we're going to reuse because that'll melt down. Just chop that there. Alright, chop a bit more off the end. And there. Alright, so that's excess that will, actually I'll pop that in the hot water when put that all together. Alright, so I've trimmed that off now, and we've got a perfect sort of boot there. Let me just trim off this end bit here as well, because that might interfere with our paint. Okay, got a little boot shape right there. Now I'm going to prepare, let's move this aside and we'll prepare some paint. I've got my little wet palette, because I'm going to put on a little bit of acrylic paint. And all we need to do is, with our little stamp here, let's try this without any thinning. Alright, so you can see there that that's coated with the paint now. Alright, and if I just press that on, you'll progressively see I'm doing these footprints. Now of course you'll probably want left and right. Just like that. Simple. Alright, so that's the boot footprint in 35th scale. Now let's try this bigger one, which is a 1/8 scale foot. There it comes out. Very nicely detailed there. Again, I'll trim off the edges. Now using the Vaseline is also the way that you'll do your two-piece molds. If you needed two halves to come apart. Right, that feels pretty good. All right, let's spread this out a bit, because I'll need more paint to cover this. Let's get a bit of water there. All right, let's see what this looks like. So I'm going to put this foot in the paint now. Let's see what we get here. There we go, we've got a footprint. Like so. It's as simple as that. So that's just with paint. Now, if we wanted to use, say, a thicker material like this, this is the Vallejo thick mud. Now this is pretty chunky, so you're not going to get the same sort of detail. All right, you can see how thick it is. But if you're doing mud prints on a tank, say, it's fairly simple to achieve. All right, so there's our little stamp. There's our really thick mud. Just make sure it's all coated on the base there. Okay, and then as we're doing our footprints, there we go. So just like that, we've made little simple stamps out of blue stuff. And it's quite amazing what you can replicate and use. And we're simply making blue stuff stamps because it has this flexibility to it. There you go, simple. There you go, that is my tutorial on making molds. They can use as stamps for footprints out of blue stuff. And that's also the same technique you use for making your two-part molds in blue stuff. So there you go. If you have any questions, please leave them below in the comment section and I'll get to them as soon as I can. So thank you for watching.